Hello there and welcome to this vlog of April 2024, and today's video is going to be a supplementary to what I put out this morning for the very simple reason that I recorded that video all about the Kickstarters and the future of Kickstarters, or the non-future of Kickstarters. Recorded that last week, so it was actually Good Friday that I recorded that. And we've had a hell of a lot of news drop since then. Now, I was away with work most of this week, so I wasn't able to do any kind of like reactive videos. And to be honest, only kind of got like half a story on it because I didn't really have time to look into it. But we've had quite a bit of drama over the last several days with the shipping and tax costs on the Kickstarter, which I will now go into. I'll kind of give my commentary on it. It's not news anymore because if you got the Kickstarter, I am like 99% sure you know about this because it hits you in the pocket. So, if you don't know, here you are. I will tell you now. But suffice to say, this is more a commentary piece on my thoughts on it and, what I think this means going forward and what any kind of potential workarounds might be, because it is quite complicated and we're still very much in the middle of what is a moving target kind of crisis, to say crisis very loosely, project thing. Before I get into that though, just a little bit of a scheduling update. So I am now, while I've been away, there was a reason I wanted to go away with work this week, and that's because the house is now really kind of getting sorted out. We're kind of getting into that point though where the internals will now need to be done, which means all this room will get displaced. Long story, it's all to do with cavity insulation and roofing, but it's quite complex and weird. So this will probably be the last video that I do for at least 2 weeks. If you are used to watching me as well on the DFA programming, that someone's actually stepping in for me for that for the next couple of weeks, because we were meant to record like over the last month and I've just not been able to do it. Like scheduling wise, I can sometimes record very early morning, but then that doesn't work for Aaron and Tom because they're on US time, so they're not going to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to record. I sometimes have to do that, but I actually don't mind because I'm usually an early riser anyway. So, if I get up at 3 o'clock to record, I just don't go back to bed. Anyway, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. I think they'll be doing more specific shows towards like tabletop competitive play, which is something where we're going to have someone who actually really understands that world. So it's kind of good that I'm sitting out because I really don't understand that world. So that would be nice. On the like the issue of like getting back onto schedule though, I'm kind of fingers crossed by like the 20th of April up towards like the end of April, I think everything will basically be done. It's just there's a few more little projects or whatever, but they really don't kind of disturb things too much. So fingers crossed it's only going to be like 2 or 3 weeks away that I can get back onto some kind of like proper schedule. One other point as well, because a lot of people keep asking me about this, and even if like, no matter how small you are, like in my tiny little channel, I suppose you become like a Z-list celebrity in whatever you kind of have a public persona in. And a lot of people have asked me about, I've basically just taken myself off of social media. I had some like pretty significant issues with my Twitter account, the usual stuff. Like I got hacked and I basically just had to close it down. And I really, thinking about it, really don't want to go back on there because I don't particularly like Twitter anymore. Not the BattleTech people that I know and speak to on there. So, if you're watching this, Hatchie and Ganglo-Saxon and MechFrog, I love you all. But it's just such a sewer on there. And what I've found is, ironically, people say that about YouTube quite a lot. I absolutely adore my YouTube audience. Like, for every like one snarky, narky, negative comment that you get, I just get met with like a wave of like optimism and positivity and like really good faith people who like I'll put a video out and they'll be like, oh, I think they might do this instead or do this, and it really kind of gets me thinking and it just engages me much more like it's much more effective for my engagement than not to have it, is what I'm trying to say. So I love being on YouTube, and I like YouTube as a format as well, and just being able to kind of do these vlogs and then speak to people in the comments afterwards. I learn an absolute ton. So if you don't learn anything from me, I certainly learn something from you. Anyway, let's get on topic then. So we'll talk about this shipping situation, and it's kind of all manifested through a few updates, obviously via Kickstarter. That started, actually, I'm just looking at the calendar here. Looked like it was, when was that? Oh, it was actually last Friday that they announced it. So I must have recorded the video. I've done it on Friday afternoon. I think then this detail all went out probably as I was recording. And then I spent I think I said this on the last video, I spent a lot of the weekend just chilling out and doing some painting. I completely kind of came out of the bubble, so I won't have seen any of this until Tuesday. So yeah, here we are anyway. So I've just got the article up in front of me here, and it's basically Catalyst just saying we think there's a problem with the shipping costs. They're a lot higher than we expected. We really feel like we need to fight your guys' corner on this because we think there's been a problem and something's gone wrong. Think there was some issues as well potentially on the VAT side as well, which we will get into. They then sent another update. This is update number 84. So the first one was number 83. If you want to go and check that out, if you're on the Kickstarter. They then say in 84 that they've got a meeting later that day with, the logistics people, or QML, I think they're called. And then we've got the one which we're going to discuss really today, which is the one that came out post that meeting. So I think what I'll do is I'll just read some of, if not all of this out, just so we know where we stand. So, hey there, backers. After researching these shipping charges, we have discovered a couple of errors. First, there was an error in the upload of the shipping charges form that included the total amount of shipping, handling, and fees instead of just shipping. Additionally, we identified that the Savannah's battle mat listed the wrong dimensions, instead with the dimensions of a BFM. Don't know what that is. Battlefield mat, maybe? Something like that? I'm not sure. Most backers received the free battle mat with their order, so this erroneously upped the shipping fees due to a large box dimensions. That makes a lot of sense. Because this affects all veterans and above backers, QML needs to rework the entire shipping upload, which takes some time. I bet it does. Once both fixes are made, 95% of all orders are going to be under $150 for your total amount of shipping, with all backers seeing some sort of drop in their shipping charge. Those remaining, we believe, are non-continental US, the rest of the world outside the hub centres, stores, and similar extremely large orders. Backers that had zero shipping listed were finalised after QML received their last data pull in December, so we'll be sending the uploaded list to them as well. There were also some odd $1 shipping amounts that did not import correctly through the upload, and these will be updated. Finally, and this is very important, the April 12th deadline is removed. We will take as long as we need to fix all these issues. Just to preempt that by saying that originally you had until April the 12th to pay the shipping and the VAT. That's now being scrapped, so you're at the moment under no time pressure to do anything. We had genuinely hoped that this would be an easy process, and are deeply apologetic for the undue stress this has caused all of you, but rest assured we are committed to getting shipping issues fixed. This is a monster project and we are so grateful for you for all your support. And the rest of it's just, thank yous and apologies and etc. etc. Anyway, what I'll try and do is, because it's all quite self-explanatory, don't pay it. Right? Well, I don't think you can pay it. I just kind of logged into the backer system thing, whatever it is, just to see. And I did this early this week as well while I was away with work. And I'll talk about what I was scheduled to pay shortly, because it's pretty extensive, or more expensive than I thought. But if you've still got a bill on there, because I believe that at the moment I can still pay the VAT or the value added tax, but I cannot pay the shipping because obviously the shipping's all getting worked out. So that's the most important thing. Just sit on this for now. You don't have to do anything. Just let Catalyst try and work this out with the the powers that be, and then we will see where we are at the final point. And Catalyst as well have been very good at the comms with this. Like, they've put 3 messages out over a several day period. It's very clear what they're doing. They're talking about what they can do, what they can't do, why there have been problems. So all power to them on that. They've done about as good as a job that they can do. Just personally, and I'll talk you through what I've had to go through with this. But I want to make something very clear before I discuss this. I was absolutely expecting like £1,000 or $1,000 bill off this. I knew that I would have to pay VAT. I knew that the shipping costs would probably be quite extensive. The bill that I got, or the kind of, the amount that came through, was more than I thought, but probably only in the area of about $200. So I think that's really important to mention first up, and I've been out of the loop and I've purposefully come off social media, as I've said. So I feel a lot happier with the world doing that, because I no longer have lots of chuntering and weird people with really dodgy agendas, like saying horrible things. So yeah, leave those people to it, because I'm sure they're at it. I'm sure they're saying like Catalyst are basically, the second coming of the Dark Lord, who have, come and put these massive shipping costs on us to profit off us, and all the other crap that these people talk about. But that's not the case, obviously. It's pretty obvious what's happened. There's been an admin error, and then there was another admin error with the amount of dimensions that each box was scheduled as. Now, that may end up saving, like me, I don't know, $50 to $70 in like the grand scheme of things, which is fine. Like I said, I thought that I'd probably been, overcharged. I thought it was maybe $200 to $300 more than I thought it would be. So if they can kind of get that down to like a $200 amount, I'd still personally be very happy with that. But I just want to make something very clear. And I had a guy, this guy that kind of trolls me and DFA online. I'm not even going to mention his name because it's not worth it. But this guy kind of like haunts us and thinks I'm like the devil, which is highly amusing to me. I love the fact that he sits there like thinking about me and raging when I'm making my like very British polite videos. So whatever. But I get heat from not just him. It's I presume it's him anyway, and other people about like how dare I talk about the fact that I can like afford this Kickstarter, and woe betide me for I don't know what it is, some kind of like reverse proletariat mentality, like they can't afford it and I'm talking about the fact that I can afford it. That makes me a bad person. Well, I'm not apologizing for being relatively successful and having money. Why should I? I work hard. I have done well for myself, and I come from nothing, by the way. If you really kind of want to drill down into that, I do not have a silver spoon background, as you can probably tell by my accent. So I see comments like this. It makes me laugh. But just to kind of, I suppose, say anybody who's watching me who's thinking that I'm just doing this like really arrogantly or whatever, which is, again, slightly laughable. But the important point to note here is if people like me are spending several $1,000s, which is what I spent on the Kickstarter, not just for me, I bought the Kickstarter for multiple people. And, I feel very privileged that I can do that. I know I'm not going on some like virtue signaling thing here. I do that because I want to do it. I bought the Kickstarter for artists, people in the BattleTech community that add so much, but, really kind of like, maybe have to like hold down day jobs and then have to go and do this like amazing art. So I think, those of us who can help people should help people, especially these people that I, like really like care about and add so much to like community discussions and the direction of what BattleTech is. So I don't expect any like prizes for that, but I've bought like, multiple Kickstarters. I can afford to spend money on multiple Kickstarters. Therefore, if my shipping is like an extra $200, I can afford that. And if I couldn't afford that, I shouldn't be spending thousands of dollars on the Kickstarter, right? So I'm going to take myself really out of this equation, because it would be the worst kind of like what, I don't know if the kids still say this, but we used to call it first world problems, right? Like me going on a some kind of rant like, woe is me, the shipping is more than I thought it could be. It's like, come on, behave yourself, right? Like, I can afford it, it's fine. And again, if I couldn't have afforded it, I shouldn't have backed it. I knew that I was having to pay VAT on it. I knew that shipping was in flux and difficult and would probably be quite expensive as well. So, save your tears for for the people on the top end of this. And Catalyst address that. They say where these orders are huge, you probably are going to have to spend a lot of shipping, because of course you are. It's just the way that shipping works. Where I really want to kind of concentrate is on the people who kind of went in at those, like, whether was it veteran company level, I suppose battalion as well to some extent, because I don't think their orders will be absolutely huge. But as soon as you're kind of going into the regiment level and above, you're talking about like a big box. I know for a fact I'm getting delivered here. I'm getting multiple Kickstarters delivered to me in UK. And then some of it is for other people that I will kind of fire on. Usually in people across Europe who can't get the Kickstarter because it's just, there weren't, like, you could get it everywhere, I think, but in certain areas it was just quite problematic. So I've kind of got a list of people and addresses that I'll send, these out to. In North America, I've actually bought it for, people. I've basically just kind of asked for their address and then just got it for them. The reason why I've done that is because, frankly, it's a hell of a lot cheaper, because the state tax in America is really quite low. And then because it's, it's all centered around the US anyway, because BattleTech's very, like, you quite rightly US centric, because that's where the real majority of the fan base is. Then, for me personally, just so I don't have to spend an extra $1,000 on then reshipping things out to the US, I just get it sent to them directly. So that works for everyone. And what I'm going to do is now I'll talk you through some of the kind of prices that I saw, and I suppose I am actually a very, very good person to give some intel on this, because I've bought Kickstarters all over the globe for people, and I went in at high levels and lower levels. So, and now that the shipping has all disappeared, I can probably give you quite a good like spectrum of what those like costs look like. So what I'll do is, this is the core Kickstarter that I bought. So this was, I think, I'd have to go back and look at this. I think for myself, I got one regiment and 3 or 4 battalions. I can't remember. Whatever. It was 3 or 4 anyway. Probably 3, maybe 4. You might be able to tell me when I tell you the amounts, because I did buy some extra things on top of that. So I bought like the little drop ships that you could get. I bought some dice trays. I bought some extra books. So, there was stuff, extra things in there that kind of padded it out a little bit. And the total cost for that for me was $1,600. And that was my bit, right? That's the bit that I was keeping for myself. Now the VAT on top of that, VAT in the UK is 20%. These are all approximate figures as well. I'm not going to give you like the actual dollar amounts. That'd be silly. But VAT then was approximately $400. Great, I was fully expecting that. Shipping then was in and around $300, and that's where the cost. That's when I looked at it the first time and was like, that seems high, because usually, like, you can get a international shipping into the UK, even at quite big orders, you can usually get it for like $150, or maybe like £120, £130. This is obviously going on for, well, over double that, if you kind of say it's about 120 usually, and it's just that one box, right? So I'll say one box, it will be an absolutely ginormous box, but there you go. I'll give you a comparison as well for somebody that I bought it for in the US. I got someone, I think this was whatever 150 was, so if that's veteran or company, I can't remember. What I love about the US is, and this is for someone out in Salt Lake City, so what's the state called? I can't remember. Salt Lake City. It'll come back to me shortly, I'm sure. Um, like the tax there for that, it was like less than $10. So I was like, "Ah, sweet, nice." And the shipping was quite cheap as well. I think the shipping was like 70, $80, which is kind of what I would have expected. I say cheap for me when you put that in context to the order. So the order cost $150. Then if shipping's kind of going in at like, whatever, I can't remember, it was something like $70, something like that. That's like half the price of the Kickstarter. Now, again, I go back to that point of it's very difficult for me to give an assessment of the costs, given that I am somebody who is comfortable spending several $1,000s on Kickstarters. If were saving your money and went in at the $150, $300 level, and then all of a sudden, you then get presented with this, oh, here you are, here is another, whatever it is, $70 to $150 to pay. Some people may not actually be able to afford that. Like, they may have been looking at shipping costs of like, well, shipping will probably cost me like $30, $40, and now it's 4 times that amount. So now I've got a choice. I can either get my electricity and, pay my food bills this month, or I have to pay the shipping cost, and that is absolutely brutal. And that's where I think my sympathy, well, not where I think, it's where my sympathy absolutely lands, is with people who, probably don't have like massive levels of disposable income, and did this as a treat for themselves, and then they get hit with this added cost. Which again, important to note, we knew that this was coming. Catalyst were very clear about it. They said that they would handle the global shipping and then we would have to pay for the local shipping. But again, because it is higher than expected, it's freaked people out. And I really hope if they can do anything for anyone, it's just the people at the lower end. I don't speak for everybody, obviously, but I really do think if you have gone in on this Kickstarter over a certain level, and it's kind of, a lot of people will disagree with this, but I will say it anyway because I'm in Europe, and in Europe we have, again, for better or for worse, however people think about this, our kind of tax rate is, and most tax rates are based like this, but it's basically done on how much you earn. So once you earn past like £55,000 a year, you're paying like 40% tax in the UK on everything you earn over that. And in a sense, I'd apply the same logic here. And I'd hope that people are mature enough to be like, okay, yeah, so it's an extra $100 than I thought, or whatever it is, but I can take that. I've got a good job. I can deal with this. I can pay for it, whatever. Again, I think it becomes very different for people who are going in at the lower levels and then get hit with a bill that was maybe several hundred percentage points more than they actually thought it would be, and then lo and behold they're panicking now and thinking, oh my goodness, I literally can't afford this. What happens? Does this mean that the Kickstarter just will not get delivered to me? It'll just get kept in a warehouse somewhere. And that's awful and it's tragic. And I'm sure, it's the last thing that Catalyst will want to do, obviously, because that will lead to all manner of real resentment, as you would probably expect. I can say from Catalyst's standpoint, though, that I think they've done everything that they can do at this juncture. They've raised the issue, they've tried to fix the issue, and then they will, try to get back to us and come up with a new calculation on what has happened. They may also be able to negotiate some kind of agreement. So if the mistakes were made, they could probably go to the key people at these backer logistics places and just argue it out with them on our side. And that's why I'm really getting narky when people go in hard on Catalyst, because Catalysts are out there batting for us now. They've not just left this on the shelf. They're not just saying, yeah, well, sorry guys, tough, the shipping was more than we thought, but you all knew the rules, because I can tell you right now, that would probably be my default position. Right? They're far nicer than I am. I say that, probably not in this case, because some of it is obviously does need fighting for. But I just hope that people have the maturity to see that, and just to let Catalyst do what they need to do now, and let them, maybe potentially they may be able to swallow some of this debt, so they might be able to broker an agreement or chuck a one-off payment, even if it just for goodwill. They might be able to say, look, we'll give you whatever amount of X $1,000, just put them on this shipping rate and then we'll cover the rest of it, whatever. They can garner some good PR out of that and at least try to get the kind of figures down, because again, that incremental extra for me means very little, but for some people it really is a matter of being able to feed themselves this month or not. And if you know anything about, like, if you live in modern society and you know people from all different kinds of demographics, even in developed countries, it's absolutely brutal at the moment. I know people out there who have got like decent jobs who can barely pay their mortgage. And these aren't idiots. It's not people who have like bought way in excess of what they can afford. It's just that interest rates are very high. The cost of everything is very high. So, I think when you're dealing with products like this, which are obviously luxury products, it really hurts even more, because some people just have to openly say, I'm sorry, I can't. So yeah, it's not a good situation at all. But again, I will give a hell of a lot of credit to Catalyst for coming out and getting in front of it, as we say in the PR world, and trying to kind of mitigate it before it becomes an issue. We know, though, unfortunately, that is not going to be enough for some people. There are still people out there, by the sounds of it, like causing waves and trouble. And, like I've said this before so many times, there are so many like hacks and frauds out there, and they will cotton onto anything to try and take your time and your money. And, I'm sure that they are having a field day with this and talking about how, horrific Catalyst are and how they've betrayed the fans and everything else, when that is simply not the case. This was always going to be a messy situation. And I'm sure as well that they will see this, that, again, speaking platitudes here, but lessons can be learned. And what I mean by that is, and I'll quickly cross-reference this and then I'll wrap it up. I very recently got the Conan Kickstarter, the Red Nails Kickstarter. The Red Nails is a very old like Conan book that it's based on. Talked about this a little bit in the last video, and I noticed that Monolith Games, who are the company that have done it, we paid shipping well in advance. Now it's probably slightly different because they're dealing with like a more limited product, so it's just like a couple of boxes, whereas on this Kickstarter you're getting all kinds of like big battle maps, and people can throw in loads of there's loads of shop front stuff that you can go in and pick. So it's probably very difficult to do like a fixed shipping point, if not impossible. But I do think that for the sake of transparency, knowing that like I went into the Conan Kickstarter and I think it cost me about, I think it was about €400, and I got a lot. So I got like all the last Kickstarter and I got this new Kickstarter. And the value was incredible, but they had a fixed fee on shipping and VAT. So it was like, say VAT's going to be obviously variable in terms of the price that you pay, but you knew it was going to be 20%. That gets added on. Fantastic. And I knew this. It's important to say we knew this with a Kickstarter, although I do think they have had some issues with VAT that I'm not really going to talk about here because I don't understand VAT in other countries. All I know is that in some countries, like, you don't pay VAT on books, and then they've included VAT on some elements on this Kickstarter when they shouldn't have done for books. So it's really complicated. Tax is always insane, so I just try to kind of keep away from it and get my accountant to do it whenever I need any kind of help. So yeah, it's important to say that. But going back to the Conan Kickstarter, we also had values for shipping. So I think because I had one of the bigger ones, because I'd got a couple of Kickstarters worth of stuff, it basically said like, you will be paying between whatever it was, $50 and $80 shipping. And I think it ended up being like, $60 or whatever. So I knew exactly, or €60 it would have been, because it's a French company. So I knew exactly what was coming out. Again, I think that gives a transparency to it. I'm sure, I mean, if someone from Catalyst saw this, they'd probably be thinking, we could never have done that. Why have you brought it up? Good point. You might not have been able to do that. So I'm not like nailing that to the wall or anything. I'm just making the point of, if people knew that those expectations were going to be coming in higher than everyone thought, it would have been much more beneficial for everyone concerned if they knew that going in, as opposed to having like a, whether it's like a misunderstanding of it, of, well, they're only, it's only going to cost me $30 for shipping, and then lo and behold, you've got a $90, $110 bill or something. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say today was just like really like an amendum to the video that I did last week. Um, I would just like to reiterate just what I said earlier. Thank you so much to everyone for your comments. I came back on tonight, I had such a pleasant surprise because, like I said, recorded all the videos last week and came back, and it was just like wall to wall, like nice positive comments, and that really is like nice because it's just something that, you know, I often say this, I kind of joke about it, like what a terrible YouTuber I am. Like, and I don't consider myself a YouTuber, it's just part of my little like hobby space. But, you know, I don't edit videos, and I do think that those like, you know, the notion that the BattleTech community is incredibly friendly is true. We just, unfortunately, like any community, we have some diehard idiots amongst us who just are persistently causing trouble and negativity. But luckily for me, I feel like the good people that, you know, kind of interact with me and follow me on here and speak to me on here or whatever are just the, you know, top tier like hobby people, just really interesting, and honestly teach me an absolute ton. Like I put a video out and then I get all the kind of data that I need on the commentary section, which I just absolutely love. So you're helping me out more than anything, really. So I'll leave it here anyway, and again, don't probably expect a video for the next 2 weeks. So this will probably be the last one that I do in a while. When I come back, again, I think I'm only going to be able to do reaction videos realistically if I do come back, because I've just got no time to kind of sit and do lore, and I'm gutted about that because I have not been able to do a lore video in months, and it's awful. Like, that's why I did this channel. If you go back through the early day stuff, it's just like wall to wall me kind of discussing really eclectic lore. But yeah, we'll get back there one day, I promise. And when the new extension is all up and running, I should have a different space to do some of this recording in. And, you know, I know he watches, so because I spoke to him recently, but Very Silent Mouse, I am planning on doing a full Kickstarter unboxing just for you, my friend, because yeah, you always love to comment on the channel. So I will sit down, I'll try to work all that out. When it's all done and everything's been decorated and everything, I'll try to do something that's maybe even a little bit more professional, but we'll see. Anyway, it's going to be a lot. I might have to do it over a couple of videos, but we will do it. Anyway, I will leave it there. I will hopefully catch you again in a few weeks when I next see you. So hope you are all well, and I'll catch you again next time.